I don't know if it's just that the folks at DOJ are staying quiet while waiting for President Biden's Attorney General nominee, Merrick Garland, to be confirmed and start working. We're expecting that Senate vote, as I mentioned earlier, any day now. But whatever the reason, the U.S. Attorney for D.C., the top federal prosecutor in D.C. who's been running the federal investigation into the Capitol attack, he hasn't held a public briefing on that investigation in 5 weeks. We did get some news today out of that office, though, out of the D.C. U.S. Attorney's office. The Biden administration has announced a new acting U.S. attorney to run that office, a man named Channing Phillips. He's a veteran former federal prosecutor who has run the D.C. U.S. Attorney's office twice before during 2 brief stints during the Obama administration. This is a really notable development for a couple of reasons. Didn't get a ton of national attention, but it deserves it. First of all, it's unusual for a new president to appoint a new acting U.S. attorney, right? Last month, nearly all the Trump-appointed U.S. attorneys submitted their resignations. That's customary when you get a new administration. Generally, the top deputies in all the U.S. attorneys' offices in the country then step up on an interim basis to become the acting chief, while new U.S. attorneys are nominated by the new president and confirmed by the Senate. But in this case, special case in the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office, the Biden administration has put in their own acting top federal prosecutor in D.C., somebody from outside the office who has a long tenure, is widely respected in that office because of previous service, but hasn't been serving there now. They're coming in from outside to take over immediately while they go through the process of nominating a permanent U.S. attorney for that role and for U.S. attorneys' offices all around the country. So it's an unusual move. And the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office is an unusual place, especially since Donald Trump got a hold of it. The last nominated and confirmed U.S. attorney in D.C. was forced out by Trump Attorney General Bill Barr under still not fully explained circumstances. Her name was Jessie Liu. She was replaced by one of Bill Barr's closest personal aides, who then set about helping Barr and Trump turn the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office into a cudgel to be wielded against the president's enemies and to help the president's friends who were otherwise in trouble. That included the Justice Department overruling career prosecutors at that U.S. Attorney's Office to recommend a significantly lighter sentence for Trump friend Roger Stone, an intervention that prompted 4 prosecutors to withdraw from the case and one of them to quit the Justice Department altogether. There was also, it was also the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office under Trump that moved to drop all the charges against Trump National Security Advisor Mike Flynn, even though the office had secured 2 guilty pleas from Mike Flynn already in court to those charges. All the attorneys involved in the Flynn case refused to sign the court filing dropping the charges. It was signed only by Bill Barr's hand-picked staffer, who he had installed as the acting U.S. attorney. Barr also installed a bunch of outside lawyers at the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office to oversee and second-guess cases that had connections to President Trump. Some of those cases were reportedly not publicly known, indicating the possibility that investigations touching on President Trump or his interests were simply disappeared by Bill Barr and his goons and his henchmen without them ever becoming known to the public because they made them disappear. That was the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office under Donald Trump. That office is still tonight, until this new guy gets there tomorrow, being run by a different former Bill Barr staffer who has been an acting U.S. attorney there since last May. That office is the office responsible for prosecuting all the January 6th Capitol attackers. But on top of that, there is a giant mess there, years in the making now, that needs to be cleaned up. We reported last night that there are currently multiple investigations, including at least 2 criminal investigations, one by state prosecutors in New York, one by state prosecutors in Georgia, that involve former President Trump. That's a first in U.S. history. We've never had a former president under criminal investigation before. But for all those investigations that are ongoing, for all of that potential criminal behavior by the president being investigated by multiple prosecutors, none of those prosecutors are federal prosecutors, and none of those are federal cases. Because in the Justice Department under President Trump, all that was taken care of. In some cases, by activity that really, really looked like corrupting the federal prosecutors' offices that handled cases that might touch on the president. That trash is tied onto the bumper of the Justice Department until somebody sets it on fire or cuts it off. That is a live wire that the Biden administration cannot leave sparking and bouncing around. That absolutely has to be handled. We're about to get a new attorney general. We are about to get a new acting U.S. attorney in D.C., which is an unusual move. Is that a sign that this is about to be handled? Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.